Welcome to Insights from the Couch, where real conversations meet real life at midlife.
We're Colette and Laura, two therapists and best friends, walking through the journey right alongside you. Whether you're feeling stuck, restless, or just unsure of what's next, this is a space for honest conversations, messy truths, and meaningful change.
And our Midlife Masterclass is now open. If you're looking to level up, get into action, and make midlife the best season yet, go to insightsfromthecouch.org and join our waitlist. Now let's dive in. Welcome back to Insights from the Couch, everyone. We have a great guest today, Cole. Oh, I should have asked you how to pronounce your name. Zesiger?
Zesiger. It's a hard one. You did great. Yeah.
Zesiger.
All right, not bad. Cole Zesiger, correct?
Correct.
Okay, who is a dating coach, a heartbreak recovery coach. I'm going to give you a formal introduction in just a second, but we're going to be talking about dating after heartbreak, how to heal and move on and find the kind of love you want. And even if you're in a relationship, this is something everyone needs to hear because you never know what's going to happen in the future. And I know a lot of you listening are single and some of you are even having trouble wanting to get back out there. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say. First, before I read your bio, thank you for being here.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I know one thing for the people who are in relationships still, one of the funnest parts of my job is I hear people's breakup stories every day, just several every day. And I can see why these relationships end. And it's kind of like a mirror for me in my own marriage that I'm like, dang it, I did that yesterday. I better stop doing that. So it's really informative just to learn about breakups, even if you're not going through them.
Right. How to avoid the breakup in the first place by doing the right things in your relationship. You got divorced at 23 and then went through another breakup soon after. And I love this. This is where you younger folks just end up being organically superstars. You began sharing your journey on social media and grew to over 750,000 followers across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and more. And Cole has coached 2,000 plus people through heartbreak, helping them either rekindle relationships in a healthy way or move on with peace. I love that. His practical approach blends psychology, attachment theory, and real world strategies to guide people from heartbreak to healing. And his debut book, X's and No's, the breakup advice you don't want to hear, offers a proven roadmap to rebuild self-worth, master communication, and create healthy, lasting love. So I just wanted everyone to hear how impressive this is before you tell us how you got there, because it's really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. I can dive into the question. I like she said, I got married really young. I was 20 years old and I'm from Utah. So if you know anything about Utah, it's kind of what we do. Everyone gets married pretty young. And because of that, I didn't have that much relationship experience. I grew up always knowing that relationships were hard because that's what everybody tells you. So in our marriage, it was pretty rough. Like we'd fight all the time. We were best friends, but we'd yell at each other. We had a hard time with each other's families. But I didn't grow up with divorce as a possibility. Like I didn't have anyone who got divorced really in my family. One of my aunts was divorced, but other than that, like nothing. All the other uncles and aunts, grandparents, as far back as it goes, no one had ever been divorced. I really viewed divorce as failure or like a way of quitting. And then one day after we'd been married for 2.5 years, my wife came home and told me that we were going to get divorced. So
she told you. She announced
she'd already decided with her mom. Like it was final, like pretty much 3 days after she told me I didn't see her again ever. So it was really, really quick. And I ended up back home with my parents. I'd been an adult for like 5 years. I was applying to medical school. I was taking the MCAT and then like kind of the big mistake I made was instead of healing and trying to take the time to move on and stuff we're going to talk about today, I thought I'm just going to jump into another relationship and get another wife because all my friends had wives. They were all starting to have kids. I was going to start going to medical school. And I really thought that if I didn't have a wife going into medical school, I would never find one for some reason. So I got on dating apps and I got another girlfriend in 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. We always laugh about that. We say women go to therapy and men usually go to the bar or the dating app.
Yeah, I went on a date. I literally got on a dating app, matched with some girls, and then asked my little brother, which one do you think is like the cutest one? And he told me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to marry that one. So then I went on a date with her and she became my girlfriend. So I literally went on one date and then had a girlfriend. So then it actually kind of works. So that's an interesting thing about rebounds. If anyone like has done that, they do work for making you not sad.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's
why it's temporary relief from pain.
Exactly. Yeah. So what ended up happening is that relationship went on for about 10 months. And then we started talking about the future and marriage and everything like that. And as soon as that happened, a flip switched in my brain and I just became super distant and scared of everything. Like all the pain I tried to bury and hide all came out. I started looking for flaws in her and in the relationship. I compared to random couples I'd see on the street. I would think they look so much happier than I am. And eventually she broke up with me too, around 10 months. So that's when I just thought I can't do this anymore. My life sucks. Like everything keeps falling apart. I have nothing going on. I got rejected from all the medical schools I applied to. And I just like didn't really know what I could do to be better in that. So I had nothing, but I really liked watching YouTube entrepreneurship stuff. And they were telling me I needed to start making TikTok videos. And all I cared about at that point was Heartbreak. So I decided I was just going to make 3 videos every day saying things that I wish I would hear. And then I dove into studying as much as I could. So on the MCAT, I studied a ton of psychology, the medical school admissions test. So I kind of just kept that studying habit going. For the MCAT, I studied 9 hours a day for 9 months, just like all day long. So I just kind of kept that going, but I moved it to relationships and psychology because I really did not want to get broken up with anymore. So that's basically how it started. And I ended up just making videos. Eventually, the girl I'm married to now, Jocelyn, I found her because she watched my videos and she ended up messaging me, which was really awesome.
Are you serious? That is the cutest cute story I've ever heard.
She was divorced in the past too. So she watched for a little bit and noticed like the mountains and things in the background. I was like, whoa, he lives by me. So she messaged me and that's how we met.
Wow.
Because you're like a unicorn. You're like a unicorn, like a guy out there talking about this at your age. I mean, like, that's like I think it's attractive to women that a guy is that curious about these issues because there are some men in this space, but I don't know how many.
It might be helpful for women. So I like analytics on my followers. So to encourage the women listening. It's about 50-50. Women are winning a little bit. It's 52%, 48%. So about 350,000 men care enough to learn.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, I think it's generational too. I definitely see huge differences as a couples therapist when I have younger clients in the way a lot of men approach relationships, learning, wanting to evolve, understanding that emotions matter, what connection is. You know, when you get people over 40, certainly over 50, it's really a unicorn because it wasn't part of society. So you're part of what's really helping to change things. And I think to Laura's point, not even just a guy who's curious and talking about it, but you took this as your divorce and breakup as a chance to really grow and evolve yourself and be better in your next relationships. And it sounds like it paid off for you.
Yeah, marriage is awesome now. It's not perfect. Like there is a weird pressure. Like I feel like kind of terrified. If I were to get divorced again, I feel like I'd feel like a fraud. Like it's scary. And that's a weird added pressure. But yeah, we try our best, and we have a weird dynamic where we talk about breakups and divorce all the time because I work with clients like that. But I love being married, and it's very, very worth it. So like if we dive into like why it's worth facing the fear and learning everything, I definitely think being married and a relationship is definitely worth anything you have to go through and anything you have to learn to be in one.
Yeah, when it's good, it's really such a valuable resource in life and so rewarding. So let's get into the stuff. Tell us about your book and a little bit, you talk about there's so many important pieces, rebuilding after heartbreak, what you can learn, what not to do in relationships that gets you there. And then you also talk about having faith in the future, what to look for in people. So you start wherever you want and give us some of the nuggets of wisdom that you share in the book.
Cool. So the book starts out by talking about why heartbreak is so difficult. And I think this is really important for people to know, especially if you're not going through heartbreak, because there's this weird amnesia that comes on everybody, that everybody forgets how hard it is. And then when their friends go through it, they say you should just get back out there or forget about him, or he sucks. And you're still in love with that person. So it's really hard. So I dove a lot into the evolutionary psychology of why we're so connected to people. I thought that was pretty interesting. So what I learned is we used to be living as more hunter-gatherer people. Like when humans were evolving, we used to live in tribes. Some people would hunt, some people would gather berries, tend to the fire. And the people who were able to connect with other individuals at the deepest level are the ones who were able to survive and reproduce. So if you imagine that you're like a caveman person, you're living in those hunter-gatherer times, and you woke up and your entire tribe had just left. The fire's smoking and put out with water. Your tent is there. All the other tents are gone, and you have no idea what's going on. What you're going to feel is your brain is going to give you a ton of adrenaline, and it's going to hold back all of your dopamine. So you're not going to be satisfied with anything. Everything's going to feel meaningless. You're going to have no oxytocin. You're going to be driven to do anything you can to go and run after that tribe and track it down. Because if you don't, you're going to be eaten by something. You're going to starve. You're not going to make it anymore. So that's kind of the wiring that we all evolved with. And in the modern world, it doesn't work very well anymore. But understanding it helps you know what to do. So if you feel like you just have so much energy, like all you can do is stalk social media, drive by their house, you can't stop thinking about them, your brain is consistently ruminating over them, you're also not enjoying anything. You want to isolate yourself from your family and friends. You don't like work anymore. Pickleball's not fun anymore. Nothing seems enjoyable. You don't have any desire to go out and date anybody else. And you just feel completely disconnected from everything. That's normal. That's because that's how we're wired. That's how we evolved, because connection's really important. And it can literally feel like you're dying. Yeah. So at the beginning, like the first steps are really learning how to use those brain chemicals so they don't overtake you and get you to do crazy things that ruin your chances of being happy and maybe get you a restraining order. And
yeah, I've seen that actually. I've seen like guys, it can really drive like men into not that it can't drive women there, but I see some men get very fixated on like the stalking piece.
Oh, women too. I think women just have a less threatening way of doing it.
Yeah, women.
There's maybe carved through X's house one time. So it's
what's that?
I've seen the craziest thing I've seen on the woman's side is I've seen one lady drive her car through her ex's house because he wouldn't talk to her. She just drove through the wall. That's how she got in.
Okay, you win. You win.
And there are stories, if we pull from the annals of true crime, women running their former partners over with a car, and certainly tons of murder and attempted murder. Now, obviously, those are the extreme, but the feelings that have driven people to this behavior are what we're talking about here. And I'm so glad you said what you said about people having amnesia. It's just like childbirth, right? By the time you have a second child, you forgot what labor's like.
That's a great example.
Yes, it really is, because otherwise I never would have had a second kid, and I'm glad I did. But it is so painful. And, I posted a video just the other day that I got so many personal comments where I talked about exactly what you're saying, that people tell you, block them, delete them, move on, no, you're too good for this bullshit and blah, blah, blah. And even though that's the ideal, people forget that you can know intellectually something isn't right. Now, in some cases, people are broken up with and they don't even want it to be over, and that adds a whole nother layer. But even when you know this isn't my person, you have that connection that you described that is a lifeline that we need for our survival evolutionarily. It is not so easy to flip a switch. It's very, very difficult and unbelievably painful for all of those chemical reasons you described. So what are some of the things people can do in this state so they don't, let's say you're not planning to run anyone over, but you're not obsessively looking at social media, waiting for the phone to ring, preoccupied. My last breakup, anything that was a color that had to do with where the person went to college, my brain was noticing because of all these chemicals. So what can help people really be as constructive as possible during that phase?
It's awesome. It's chapter 2 of the book. You're going in order. So
perfect.
Chapter 2, the next thing you do is it's called no contact or creating the space you need to heal. So another analogy that works good here is they've actually done studies on the pathways of the brain that get addicted to substances like heroin or cocaine. And they're really similar, like the same brain areas light up as when you're trying to get over someone that you love.
Yeah.
So because of that, it's really similar to how you quit those types of addictions too. You don't you can't taper off. There's going to be a withdrawal phase and you have to give yourself the space away from the substance that you go through the withdrawal. And then after that, it gets a lot brighter. Yeah. So what that's going to look like with a person, it's called no contact, but you don't text them. You put everything that they've given you in a box. You hide it all. You try to stay away from places that were special to both of you, at least for a time. And during that time, it's going to feel worse at first. Your brain's going to come up with all these hypotheticals that they're going to forget about you, that they never loved you, that you were tricked. It's going to tell you that this was your one chance at love. And maybe now you're older and you're not going to have any chance like this at all. So you've got to go save this one. You're never going to connect with someone again this way. And if you think back that caveman example, and even the drug example too, it's your brain does not want to lose this connection. So it's against you. It's going to fight against you to do everything it can to get you to hold on to it, even if it's against your best interest.
Cole, is there a time frame? Like, is there a, I don't know, a rule of thumb on time?
Yeah, I'm curious your take on this, because the old school, he's just not that into you, which you probably don't even know about. But this was this revolutionary book in the early aughts.
I've heard of it.
They always had a 60-day, like they would say, go no contact for 60 days. And by that time, you won't even want to contact them. Okay. And if you do, then go ahead. But I that's not scientific. And I think that's really short for a lot of relationships. What do you think? Or do you give a time frame suggestion to people?
I do at the beginning. Like, I'll say like 30, 45, 60 days, but it's more for the person to have something tangible to hold on to than this is exactly how it's going to go for you. Yeah. Because when you're in that space, like it seems short, 60 days sounds short, but it doesn't feel short at all. It feels like 60,000 years. So having some number to hold on to is actually really, really good. Yeah. And you will be like, if you do it correctly, like if you're not checking social media, you have everything put away. I'm going to talk about later some things that you actually can focus on, but you're not focusing on any of those X related things. You're going to feel a lot better by 60 days. You might not be totally over the heartbreak, but you're probably going to be a lot more clear. So
You're through the withdrawal. You're through the withdrawal. Yeah. I mean, the reason I say the 60-day thing, first of all, I think you're absolutely right that for somebody going through that withdrawal, having a time frame makes it feel more manageable than like forever. Yeah. I just think for a lot of people, especially if it's been a long, deep relationship, to kind of wait it out and white knuckle it for 60 days or 30 days and then think, okay, now I'm going to go back. You're just going to relapse, just like drug and alcohol addiction. Do you take a stance on social media blocking?
Yeah. It depends on what you want. So if you're trying to reconcile with the person, which is like some people, sometimes you break up for some reason can be repaired. Mm-hmm. If that's where you are, then I'm more on the stance of muting. Like you still don't want to see it. If you want to be with the person and they got really overwhelmed with life and they're going to be able to overcome and you guys can get back together, things are going to change, then I don't think blocking is totally necessary. It can send a message that things are totally over. And if that's not where you are, then why send that message? So there's muting. If you're trying to move on, 100% block, 100%. Yeah. You don't need it at all. So it's more
anything fires up, it feeds. We're trying to starve off the connection that your body thinks you need to survive so that you can recover and move on. And unfortunately, even a little blip of that person on social media is enough to light up those dopamine centers and give you some little hit of connection. I have a client who has cut off everything, but hasn't blocked. She's definitely not an active withdrawal anymore, but she obsessively checks her stories on social media and sees that the guy still looks at her stories. And this has become the only source of connection, but she's still in it because of it.
I have a client like that too.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, but I imagine that like this is like sort of a pre-contemplative thing. Like people may not be ready to do this. Like you have to, I mean, even people that are in a lot of pain and they're just really grieving, it may take them a while to take these steps.
Yeah, it's different. There's a quote I like that says when someone's drowning, that's not the time to teach them how to swim. Like you have to save them first. So yeah, some people, you just take baby steps of what they're capable of doing at the time and you just continue to do it. So if someone's totally in love with someone, like let's say you've been married for 25 years and then you are in love with the person, totally, you don't know anything's wrong. And then all of a sudden your husband comes home and says he's been thinking about divorce for the last 2 years in his head. He didn't tell you anything. And then all of a sudden you're getting divorced. Like for that woman, you can't just say go out and date now because that's cheating. She was in love with her husband like yesterday. And like even blocking is going to be really, really hard, but also it's going to continue resetting her. So do what you can do. And then usually as you work up, you become stronger and you're able to do more things.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of women in a 25-year, coming out of a 25-year marriage have children, and it's not always possible to cut off contact, which can complicate the recovery experience. Because ideally you do, even if it takes you a little time, ideally you do at least need some kind of period where you break the attachment.
Yeah. That's a good thing to bring up. With those people, I usually advise that they do what they can to make their kids' life as normal as possible. So they still work with their partner and communicate when it has to do that, but set a boundary and say like, I love you, but if this is what you're choosing and like we're going to get divorced or we're breaking up, then it's too hard for me to be in contact with you if it doesn't include the kids.
Right. Or set boundaries. Like, let's say you are actively parenting and you're going through a divorce and you're the one who's lovesick. You know, not that this is the ideal, but if you have to communicate with that person about what time you're picking up the kids and who's taking them to McDonald's. I mean, I guess no one goes to McDonald's anymore, but theoretically, I'm dating myself, right? Who's going to the Whole Foods? Who's picking the kids up at Whole Foods? You know, then at least you could set some kind of boundary of look, in order to take care of myself, I want to keep our communication to a minimum and only as it pertains to the kids. Because we've seen as therapists, and I'm sure you see this too in the people you're coaching, Cole, that some women and men will remain in love with their ex, especially if it's a marriage, for years and their life does not move on and they are frozen in grief. And it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, so I find two things when I hear that. Usually they're either not doing the first thing we just talked about. Like they think they are, but if they actually went through and messaged it, like looked at it, they actually aren't. They actually are still looking at pictures. They're still visiting places. They're still reminding themselves of things. So the first thing, if you find yourself in that category, like I've heard people say, like it's been 8 years and I can't get him out of my mind. Yeah. Usually that's the first thing. They're not actually having that detox period. They're just getting close. They're like making it like 2 weeks and then they take the drug again. And they just do that consistently, relapse to where most of the time they're doing it right. But because of like the nature of the brain and how that works, that you just keep resetting everything, they're not actually moving forward. They just stay in this limbo. But the second, and I think equally important thing is you have to actually make your life better in the areas you can control to be able to move on. So I like thinking of it that your brain would rather stay in a beautiful fantasy of the past than a really painful present and dull future. So
that.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, that is huge what you just said and so true.
Yeah. So like what I work through with clients a lot, and this is in the book too, is I help them identify these 6 areas of their life. It's family relationships, friend relationships, religion/spirituality, like some belief that's bigger than you, hobbies, work, and then self-care. Like, are you eating, going to the gym, sleeping? And then I have them rate those out of 10 based on how they feel about them, like satisfaction level before the breakup and then now. And what I find most of the time is before the breakup, life as a whole is way better. for these people that are really sad. Like they're doing great, and then they isolate themselves from their friends and their family because they feel like they'll never understand. They think God has abandoned them, so they stop praying. They don't play guitar anymore or piano. They don't play pickleball because they feel like hobbies are meaningless. I used to do this with my boyfriend, and now I don't have him. They go to work, but it's just drudgery because they have to make money. They don't try to like get better at anything anymore. They don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't go to the gym. And then they say, why can't I move on? And there's nothing you have to move on to.
So, and I'll just say, now that you mention this, just to be a little vulnerable here for a moment, even though I do feel a little bit of even like shame or maybe just embarrassment, that 20 years ago, I went through a breakup that really, not my divorce, it was a rebound like what you described, Cole, where looking back, I felt like I had not jumped into it, but it was like 2 months after my divorce. I was 31 when I got divorced, so relatively young. And I got into this relationship that was the most dopamine-y relationship maybe I've ever been in, a very passionate connection. And when it ended, I did everything wrong and exactly what you're describing. Like I knew I should go no contact, but I would do this intermittent reinforcement where I'd go a while, then I would cave. I was self-medicating with wine and cigarettes at the time. So I'd usually cave when I'd had a little too much wine to drink. And then I'd feel this initial relief of like, the connection. I got like whatever dose of it. Just like shooting up with heroin, followed by feeling absolutely terrible and like death. And on top of it, all the shame and humiliation that I had caved. And it went on like this. It took me like 2 years that I went through this. It destroyed me. It destroyed my relationships with other people. It destroyed my mental health. I could not date. I could not move on. I wasn't taking care of myself. It was really one of the worst. It probably was the worst experience of my entire life. I mean, it taught me so much, but everything you're saying, I made all those mistakes and I really had to learn the hard way. I suffered worse, actually, maybe 6 to 8 months after the breakup than I did at the initial breakup because of my failure to execute what you're describing.
Like you were just like the shame and disappointment in yourself kind of like compounded on the pain and made it worse.
That compounded it. And I remained addicted to this person. And it became not even really, when I look back, it really wasn't about love for the person. I became addicted to some symbolic idea of my attachment to this person. And I hooked myself through intermittent reinforcement on whatever little crumb of contact I had, where it became what you describe. It was this fantasy. I was the one who ended the relationship at first. Like I didn't even want it. And then it took on because it wasn't going to work out. There were logistical issues. Like we lived in a different place. We had young kids. There was no pathway forward. And I thought I was kind of ready to move on. And then he moved on more quickly with someone else than I did. And that can create a whole thing where you're like, I'm
yourself
done.
To the other woman.
Yes. Or all of a sudden you want the toy that you gave away to the kid who, right? You haven't played with the toy in 10 months, but another kid wants the toy and suddenly you want your toy back. Yeah. And then I just did this whole cycle of exactly what you're coaching people not to do. And I became more addicted to my fantasy construct of him than I ever even was really invested in the relationship.
How'd you get out?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, how did that finally break up?
Oh, for Christ's sake. So finally he married someone else, but we continued to have this ridiculous cycle of communication of like where I'd cry, I'd end up trying to like redeem myself and look like I didn't care. But of course that would the ego wanting to like show him. And I would find reasons to talk to him that were fabricated. You know, that evolutionary desire to preserve the attachment that's destroying you. Then I would feel worse. I'd end up crying. We continued to talk on and off until he got engaged to this person. And then that was what finally ended it. That like, this person does not want me to have any contact with you because you feel like a threat to her. I mean, no shit, right? It was so toxic. So that forced me finally into the withdrawal period. And after a short amount of time, relatively speaking, of no contact at all, and really saying, okay, this is over and I'm not going to have any contact with this person ever again. And I have had no contact with this person. That is when I finally went through the withdrawal. And that's the only way I got to the other side.
So you had to hit like a brick wall of like, I can't go any further or this is going to be totally outside of who I am.
Yes. And it was bad.
Really good to hear you say that though, Colette, because I think for the listener, like if they're on the fence or if they're stuck in one of these cycles, like it really does underscore that you got to go no contact if you want to begin this healing process.
Yes, this is why I am such a big believer in it now. Now, if you're in one of those relationships, there are times where the feelings aren't that strong. You break up. If it's the rare thing where both people are really like ready and able to move on, then maybe you can be friends. But usually by the time you want to be friends, you don't care about being friends. And do yourself a favor and listen to Cole's advice, whatever age you are, because there really isn't another way.
And even like, so this is an interesting thing for the people who are like you and you're like, I really want this to work. That's also how people get back together that it works, is no contact. Right. Like the people who actually make their relationships work and they end up getting married and having kids after, it's because they both took that time apart. They really don't talk to each other. And then they go through and improve those areas that we talked about, which I do want to add one more thing on that in a second.
Yeah.
But they go through and improve those areas and then they come back together and now they're different people. But when people try to get back together as the same people, it's like before you knew 1 + 1 = 2 and now you're hoping that it equals 7, but it doesn't still. Like you're still the same two people, so it's still going to equal breaking up again. And I have not seen people get back together and stay together when they keep going through those cycles. But I've seen a lot of people get back together when they actually improve and take time apart from each other.
Tell us a story of that. Like I'm curious about like somebody you've seen. I mean, did they break up with the intention of getting back together, or is it like a like we're breaking up and if we find each other, then like, okay, so be it.
Okay. So there was one, I got done coaching her in June. I usually coach people for 3 months. So I coached her from March to June. And they broke up and he broke up with her saying he didn't want to be with her anymore. It was mainly because of avoidant attachment style, that they were diving into deeper things, talking about getting married, and it became too much for him and he left. So what she did is she went no contact and she started getting really into other things. She had been really anxious in the past and really centered her life on him. She didn't have much going on beyond him, which also added a ton of pressure on him and probably made him feel like he needed to withdraw more. So she started going on hikes. She got a job that she really liked. She played with her dog a lot. She made all these friends and she was hoping that he would come back. But it took about, I think he texted her when we had like 2 weeks left of our coaching container. So it'd been like 2.5 months, where at that point, she did not think he was going to come back. She thought that it's over, but I'm kind of okay. Like, I'm really sad. I miss him. She'd been on like a date, I think, and it didn't go very well. But she had a couple guys that were interested in her, but she liked her life in general. She loved her hikes.
She really liked her job.
Yeah, she felt great. And she was not at all in the place she was at the beginning because she'd built all those other things that she didn't need him like oxygen. She had all these other things that supported her life. And at that point, he ended up texting her and he was still like a little like flaky and things like that. So she was able to stay strong because he wasn't the only thing that mattered. And then they were able to have a really good conversation. He realized why he pulled away. And now they have this new dynamic where she just doesn't like suffocate him with everything because she's got all these other things going on. And as far as I know, like it's been since June. So they've been together for 3 or 4 months now. Things are going well as last I heard, but the dynamic changed there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That avoidant, anxious dynamic that's always, and just in simple terms, in case some of our listeners don't know about avoidant attachment, we can just summarize it as kind of like a fear of intimacy, the one who withdraws more. And sometimes those people will withdraw even if you're not anxiously attached because intimacy, they crave it, but it also feels scary. And then of course, anxious, you're not necessarily going to be anxious in every relationship, but if you're anxiously attached, it can manifest as, like you described, that suffocating, clinging, this person is your whole world, always chasing, needing constant reassurance and proximity, and really losing your sense of self to the relationship. So in the story you described, these people were really able to make changes to their dynamic, and he was able to move toward her, and she was able to fill her life with not just him, and it could work.
Yeah, but if you think about, like, if she was expecting him to come back that whole time, she wouldn't have done any of that.
Right.
No.
Like, it has to be really
Can't
authentic. You can. You can for a sec, but like you plateau. So like that's one thing I've noticed actually is if you're like, all I want is this person back, and that drives you to like go to the gym and build your life and stuff, that is cool. That is better than nothing. Like it can get you started, but you do plateau and you get stuck.
Yeah.
So it has to eventually become, I'm going to make my life enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, that's in therapy. We always talk about like the number one task is like orienting people around the life worth living. Like, what is the life worth living? And people have to create that for themselves to a certain extent. And it cannot be all your eggs are in one basket, or one person is going to give you a life worth living. You actually have to build it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, Cole, like what was the feedback you got from your relationships? Like what kinds of things did you have to work on to be like a different partner?
Anxious attachment was huge. I didn't get that feedback, but I figured it out later.
You figured it out.
Criticism was huge, looking for little problems and nitpicking, which I realized.
You were doing that?
Yeah. Which I realized
was... That's a big anxious attachment hallmark too.
Yeah, it was because I was I didn't know how to say my needs and stuff, so it'd kind of leak out as criticism. So I care about anxious attachment a ton because that's exactly, and that's what was really sad and got me learning stuff, was because I got divorced, then got in this second relationship and did all the same things. Like I thought that I had learned because I went through such a painful thing, but I didn't. I just did all the same things again because I didn't take any time to change anything.
Wow.
So for me, and I kind of did this on accident. But this is what I coach people with those 6 areas to do. So it seems really huge to say, build a life that you love and is worth living. When your entire life just got taken away, you were supposed to grow old with this person, finish out your life with them, have kids, have this beautiful time. And now it's just an open mystery and it's terrible. So what I have people do, and I'll tell you how I did this on accident, but I have people with those 6 areas I talked about, pick 2 or 3 things you can do that would make those numbers go up. And then you'll have a list of about like 18 things. And then just try to do a thing a day. And that's it. So like if family relationships is really low, try to call your mom. If hobbies are really low, then try a painting class. Like you just kind of make life into a game and do things to systematically gain those. And if you do that for like a couple of months, then suddenly you're going to be living a life you love. So
tactical. I like it.
I love it. And I see why this works, right? It is so tactical, and you're just giving people an action roadmap, right? Like we don't have to decide or overanalyze or come to these huge insights. Let's just get into action and do some of these things, because these are the things that are going to bring the feelings of healing. As the withdrawal peaks. I used to work when I was an intern as a counselor in public detox, like interning to get my hours for counseling. And I would work these overnight shifts and see some of the most insane stuff you've ever imagined. You know, people coming in off the streets for like crimes or having mental breakdowns where there was also substance abuse, but so often detoxing from alcohol, benzodiazepines, heroin, opioids, you know. And I think breakups are a lot like this. That first period is acute hell where you feel like you're going to die. And then as you start to do this tactical plan you're giving people and you rebuild these domains of your life, the withdrawal starts to subside and you're filling your life with things that bring you joy and happiness. And it's like your dopamine starts coming again from healthy things and rewarding activities and people who are invested in you instead of this person you think you can't live without, who may or may not be coming back. And much of the time, if someone breaks up with you, at the end of the day, it's going to be good riddance in the long run.
That's a big thing is I see with my clients is like, I talk mainly to people who get left, who get broken up with. Like I've done polls and it's, I think like 10% of my audience leaves, but like 90% gets left. Cause I think that's just what I started talking to. Cause that was what happened to me. But in that time, like it'll feel like everybody, you should get all of your partners back. But if you actually think about that logically, like if you had to be dating all of your exes right now, that would be terrible. That wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be good. So like, most do not get back together. Most breakups happen for a reason, but I think it's worth staying in the reality that is not what the internet usually falls into two camps. It's an ex is an ex for a reason. Never talk to anybody ever again. Or every ex comes crawling back if you do this love spell.
It's not helpful.
All work. Yeah. And like the truth is I think it's closer to the every ex is an ex for a reason, but like that'll work. So build your life that you love and it ends up working.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like I'm like sort of an outlier in this conversation because I've been with the person that I met when I was 18. And
cool.
My anniversary, it's been 25 years. So like I'm in that camp.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it is awesome. But I chose from a young place, right? Like, and my husband has a very, very particular energy. And as I get older, I've like said, like, I don't know, like if I would have chosen that exact thing for my adult self. But what I've told Colette, and I've talked about this a lot, is that I find that the people that I am still attracted to have very much the same like energetic footprint as my husband. And it's almost like it's so unconscious. And I'm just wondering about this like repetition compulsion that we have, like to sort of pick the same things over and over again. And if that's something that you work with your clients about, are you helping people pick differently? Are you helping people show up or put things down more quickly, even though they may be attracted into certain dynamics?
That's an awesome question. That is awesome about your marriage, though. Congrats, 25 years.
Oh, yeah. No, it's great.
Okay. So my favorite frame to think of this is attachment theory that Colette mentioned. So usually what people will go for is what's familiar and what they defined as love to look like in the past. So one example is like if you grew up with a golden retriever as a dog, like that's the dog you grew up with. When you think of dog, then you're going to think of that probably. You're not going to think of a chihuahua. That's the first one that's going to pop into your head. So if you had experiences where you were cheated on, or maybe your parents weren't very attentive, and that's what you defined love as for yourself, you're going to naturally be attracted to those things because you'll find what you're looking for. That is what love is. That's what I think it is. So you'll keep finding that. And I see that all the time, that especially people who had like really emotionally unavailable parents will just find emotionally unavailable partners again and again and again. And you can get lucky and just kind of luck into someone else that like changes that belief for you. But if you want the most amount of control, it usually, there's two things. I think one is starting to build that life that you show yourself that I don't need someone to define my life for me. If you show yourself, look, I can go on these vacations by myself. I can have a job that I love. I feel comfortable with my standing before my creator or the universe or whatever I believe in. I have all these friends. I feel great about that. That's going to be one thing. In the same way that like if you're not starving and have no savings, you'll take any job that comes along. If you have a big savings built up, then you're going to wait for one that you actually like. Same thing there. So if you have all those life things. I love
that metaphor.
That's perfect. Yeah. The more full your life is, the less desperate you are.
And then second thing is look at the relationships you spend time around. So are all your friends extremely bitter and hate all men, or vice versa? Are your parents, like, is their relationship falling apart? Do you have examples that can rub off on you of healthy, secure relationships? And if you don't, you need to find them and be around them. Because once you see it, your brain will be convinced that actually exists, and then you'll have the motivation to wait for that and search for that.
Right. Go to a dog show. See that there are other breeds besides golden retrievers before you pick again. Yeah, there's so many different flavors. You're so right. And I love these great metaphors you have that just drive the point home. You've got to kind of educate yourself on what love can be if you haven't had models of it, so that you don't get into that repetition compulsion, and fill your life up so that you're not just going to desperately jump into the next thing.
Yeah, it can change them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can update your template throughout life, and that's the goal. And I have to say, as we're talking about this, because I had 11 years between marriages as an adult, I dated a lot. I was in long-term relationships. I went on tons of dates. So I really feel like I lived this so intensely for such a long stage of my life. But I think that you learn so much from every failed relationship. It's helped me so much in counseling people to know what people go through and why some of this is so hard. And I think so many, maybe most or almost everyone, if you really do these things you're describing, Cole, you will look back on the relationship, even if you were so heartsick and in love, and say, wow, that person was really nothing special, right? Like it's okay that it's over. I don't have one ex that I think, oh no, that's the one. I mean, I think that guy I told you about that I'm so heartsick over, he'll never listen to the podcast, but if he does, sorry, buddy. But I'm like, what was I thinking? Yeah. And yet in time, I'm friends with all but that one guy. I'm friends with all of my exes. I'm on good terms. I eventually did become friends with almost all of them. Some I don't talk to that often, but some are still a part of my life and are actually friends with my husband. But almost every breakup, I really, really suffered until I was willing to do the things that you describe. After that horrible breakup, I started going no contact, focusing on myself, dating with more discernment, doing all the good stuff you're talking about. I had to learn the hard way, but it made a huge difference and ultimately led me to find a partner that was so much better suited for me.
That's awesome. It's cool you're friends now. Like, I feel like that's like 50-50 if people do that. Cause it is, I think it's totally great. And then some relationships, like I have respect for your husband there too. Like some it's hard because like you do want to be friends, but the other partner gets insecure. And I think that's okay. Right. And valid too. So it's kind of.
I agree. And I'm not saying that everyone has to replicate that template. When I met my husband, because I'd been single for so long, I told him very early on, I have a lot of male friends. Some of them are people I dated briefly. How do you feel about that? And we were able to have a really open discussion. And then I think what made the difference is that he felt confident. There was no dangling feelings. I put him first. That's and I also brought those people into our life as a couple. I wasn't like, hey, I'm going out with my ex-boyfriend tonight. I'll catch you tomorrow. Yeah. And eventually in time, it became just a non-issue. So it worked in my case, but I don't think you have to be friends with your exes. I think really the point I was trying to say is that there's almost no one you can't get over if you do it right.
100%. So I'll insert this thing because this is probably the sneakiest way that people fail to get over things, because it feels like you're doing something right, is refusing to forgive people for how they hurt you. And I'd like to hear what you guys think as therapists too, because I've heard some different things on the internet, and this is kind of like my own idea.
What's your idea on it? Like,
my
how do you
idea
see
is for forgiveness always, no matter what. Like you have to. So I'll explain why, but I don't even have exceptions, really. I have an exception short term, but not long term. So I've observed a lot of people who do the no contact. They do all this stuff. They build lives that they love, but they were extremely hurt by their partner. So maybe let's just say they got cheated on, because that's an extremely painful one.
Yeah.
And then they refuse to forgive. And they're good, but every time something reminds them of their ex because they haven't forgiven him, they continue to feel anger and they're kind of like stunted. And that also leads to trust issues, that now they have a hard time with other people. They get triggered very often by other people who do some of the same mannerisms, even if if they're on a dating app and they see the same name, they'll automatically swipe past all of those people. Like they get like plateaued at a certain level.
Get stuck. Like I always think of it as like the way they trap monkeys is that they have the banana and the monkey sticks his hand through and he won't let the banana go. And then the monkey's like trapped. And that's what happens when people won't forgive is they won't let go of this like thing. And then they stay attached to it unwittingly. As opposed to if you forgive, it's not that you're excusing what happened. It's like you're releasing yourself from it.
That's exactly what I think. So I guess I am on the therapist thing. Okay, good.
Well, I have a slightly different take. I do have a slightly different take. Okay, so to some degree, we could even say that it's semantics, depending on how you define things. Mm-hmm. But Janice Abrams Springs, who is famous and wrote the book, Dr. Janice Abrams Springs, who wrote the book After the Affair, she also wrote this book, and I can't remember the name of it exactly. It's on my shelf somewhere, but about not forgiving and still moving on. Basically, the idea is you don't absolutely have to forgive. What you do really have to do is let go. And for many people, that involves forgiveness. And this is why I also say maybe it's a bit of semantics. What you don't want to do is be holding on to anger and bitterness and resentment, because that is where the old adage is true. It's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. And it can become someone's whole raison d'etre, right? Is they're stewing in hatred, and it becomes a victim mindset. And that's what really keeps them holding the banana. So whether you actually, for some people, I think it may be important to say, it's not okay what happened to me. I don't forgive that person for what they did, especially when something unconscionable. I mean, I've had clients that are left, they're pregnant. They're just horrific things, left in financial distress with young kids and things that I think are really hard to say, I forgive you. Now, if you can forgive, great. And certainly for some people, I'm Catholic. It can be a very big part of religious beliefs. But if you're someone who really can't forgive, there can be nuanced ways to say, you already said it, right? I don't condone this and I don't forgive, but I let go. I release this person. And I think the more important thing, whether you actually forgive or not, and certainly I don't think anyone forgets, is that you find a way to let go and reclaim your life, and your energy is put into you and not into nurturing the grudge and that you're a victim and that this person wronged you. I mean, I know people who are divorced for 30 years and it's still all about what happened to them and that rotten bastard. And good luck having a joyful life that way. So I think for most people, I'm not really disagreeing with you. I'm just suggesting that if you're somebody where forgiveness feels impossible because of your beliefs or whatever it is that was done to you, that you may still be able to find a way to let go, whether you actually forgive or not.
I like that.
Does that make sense?
I think it sounds like the same thing. Like how would you describe letting go without forgiving? I guess that's the difference. Is there a way?
Yeah. Moving on.
Working on building your life.
Yeah.
Understanding where your energy goes.
Yeah. You're not ruminating. You're not focused your energy on the person. And I think a big part of it is not moving from victim mindset into growth Creator. And empowered mindset.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
If forgiveness feels essential to that, then great. And if it doesn't, find a way to do that without calling it forgiveness. That's why I say it might be semantic.
I know. I think it's what it's being called, because like the way that I define forgiveness is that I'm not going to suffer over this anymore. Like I'm pretty much defining it as letting go. So I think it is the same.
And I just want to say, because I just had recently an experience where I felt like I got thrown back into a feeling about a relationship that I've had that really like kind of undid me recently. And I thought, I've worked through this. Like I've let this thing go. And I think that what we have to be so compassionate towards ourselves about is that what has injured us will always injure us when we think about it, and that it will resurface in multiple times in ways in our life. So even though you forgive in a certain moment and you detach, you may have to do that work multiple times.
Yeah, that's a great point. Usually decreasing over time in intensity.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Ugh, human experience.
Yeah, because to your point, Cole, though, before we wrap up, as I think about it, when I think about my ex-husband, ex-boyfriends, even the things that happened that were so hurtful and harmful, there really isn't anybody that I don't forgive. And I also own my own part that I contributed, because a relationship is a dynamic and it's rarely ever one person's fault why something doesn't work out. So I think it's a really important point.
Yeah, usually like how I define it, because there is a chapter on forgiveness. It's on self-forgiveness and then forgiving of your ex, because the other half is I continue to beat myself up. But I view forgiveness as it's not really my job to continue being angry about this forever. It's my job to learn from it and to not let you back into my life if you did something terrible. Right. But I view it, mine is more from a religious lens. Like I view that like justice is God's, not mine, and that like things will happen, and that helps. But when someone hurts you, and when the choice is like go into that victim mode, which I think the internet doubles down on, you get a lot of views for saying like, this person hurt you, like you should be mad, you should be sad. These are all the red flags about them. The internet is very conducive to that victim mode. If someone hurts you, it's not your fault, and like it's theirs. But I do believe in the accountability that it's your problem, and now you have to get over that pain. And forgiveness is what I label that as. That you have to find some way to let go of it, and forgiveness is the best word I know of to describe that.
I love that. And I love that definition of not suffering, choosing not to be angry. Like it's reclaiming your life. It's all the things that are going to get you the life that you want to lead. And staying stuck on somebody and what they did to you is the surest way to destroy your mental health and your well-being, whatever we want to call it. You got to move forward. And you're the only one who can choose to do that.
And it's worth it. So that's like a good point to end on, is like it's going to feel like love is this hot pan that you burned your hand on and now you don't want to ever touch it again. But if you've read, I think it's called The Study on Adult Human Development, but it's by Harvard University. Yeah. Yep. And studied it. They looked for what makes people happy. It's gone for 88 years now, around, I think it's 85 or 88. But they've interviewed these people every 3 years. They've taken blood samples. They've asked, I think it's about 1,700 people, what makes people healthy, happy, and successful? And the answer over and over again is the quality of your relationships. The craziest fact I've seen in it is if you find someone with cancer who's like 50 and someone who's like in a terrible marriage at 50, the cancer person has a higher chance of surviving longer.
That's crazy.
It matters a lot. So like whatever the pain that you have to go through to learn how to have a relationship again, or to forgive, or to build your life again, all that data says it's worth it. That is the thing we can do to be happy and fulfilled.
Yes, a good relationship is worth whatever it takes to get there. A bad relationship will ruin your life and your health more than anything. Yeah. Right? And
I think your work is really important, Cole. I'm glad you're doing it.
Me too.
Yeah, you guys too.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I could have used you 1,000,000 times over the years. But I got there anyway in the end, just a lot of trial and error. So I can see why it's so powerful to work with you and really be coached through this process, because you need the support and people need these actionable steps. So before we let you go, tell us again where people can find you, social media, where they can find the book, all that good stuff.
Awesome. So I'm on Instagram, Coach Cole Zesiger. And then everywhere else is just Cole Zesiger. So YouTube, Threads, TikTok, and I make videos on all of those. You can see them. And then for the book, it's going to be pre-ordered anywhere. I think it's going to be in just about every Barnes & Noble. And then it's also on Amazon, or you can find it on my site, coachcolezesiger.com/X's and No's.
Wonderful. And we will have all the links in the show notes as well. Everybody go grab a copy of this book. I can't wait to read it myself. And I'm definitely going to recommend it to clients.
Thank you.
Yes.
Of course. Of course. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great discussion. And it's so heartwarming to me to see young guys like you doing this relationship work. It's so good for people who get to work with you individually, but just also it's a positive sign in our society, I really think.
I love talking with you guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes.
It was great. Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.
And thank you to all our listeners. We hope, as always, that you got some valuable insights from our couch today, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.